Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Long. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Cloth. And we are here.
Hey.
How are you? He jumped in before I could ask him how he's doing.
Yeah, I know. I was scared that you weren't going to do it.
Well, how are you doing today?
I'm okay.
You good? You happy? You healthy?
No.
Clean living?
Probably. Maybe.
You hungover?
No.
No, me neither.
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah, and?
Yep. So, Charles, what fun, creative, inspiring pitch do you have for us today?
Okay.
What TV show are you creating, adapting, or,
Here's what we're gonna do.
just doing?
I'm gonna do a TV show, and it's gonna be all about how silly it is to pursue your dreams. That's what the show's all about. How pursuing your dreams is a fool's errand, and you shouldn't, and no one should do it. Everyone should just be happy.
That might be a little too real for our audience, Charles. Maybe I should use my backup pitch that I made just in case your pitch
that's a good idea.
was too depressing.
Yeah, that it does hit a little too close to home,
Yeah.
for our listeners.
Yeah.
David.
And us.
and us, yes.
Anyway, well, we're back. Season 3, episode 1, Res Publica.
Oh, I'm so excited.
The Roman Republic again. Quick summary of last time. For the first season, we had Tiberius Gracchus. He was trying to make his land reforms happen. Gaius Marius was working his way up in the military. Season 2, Tiberius Gracchus, he died. His brother Gaius Gracchus tried to take up his legacy and pursue the land reforms while also trying to curb the power of the Senate and, earn some sort of redemption for his brother and his family and get some revenge.
Yeah, and he's gonna live forever. That guy, Gaius Gracchus.
Yep.
He's gonna
he
be.
died at the end of season 2.
Oh no! I forgot that.
Fucking dead.
He's dead as a doornail. If I remember properly, he got his head cut off and filled with gold.
He did.
Or lead.
Actually, because
yeah,
they
it was
wanted
lead.
to. Yeah, because his slave that he told to kill him so that his slave could get the money, he filled his head with lead and then gave it to the guy that was paying for his head, but was basing the amount of gold he was going to give him on how much the head weighed. And so he filled it with lead, obviously, to increase the price. And the dude, instead of getting mad at him, paid him in full.
Yeah.
That's a cool move.
I bet that guy's not a slave anymore.
He probably died very shortly after.
Probably, because he has so much gold, and it was Roman times. You get mugged in Roman times.
Get mugged. No, I don't know. He was in the city. Maybe he quickly ran to the bank, if they have banks.
Do they have banks?
Maybe he's living a nice life now.
Maybe, who knows? Now, in the year 2023.
Definitely dead now.
Nope, he's still alive. He's still kicking, and his name is
I
Charles
think when we
Long.
do this show, he's still alive, and we just have him in the background, just to prove he's alive. Throughout the next season.
We see him
just,
plotting
showing off
throughout the show.
Just
we see him
hanging
plotting.
out. He's just having a drink. You could be having a drink with one of the characters that I'm about to introduce.
Ooh,
who's
that
one of the
could be fun.
cooler characters in this. Cooler, I mean literally by he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's made out of ice.
Yep, literally.
Yeah.
Anyway, last season, Gaius Marius, he was struggling with his political aspirations and has kind of been set back and isn't really doing too hot. There we go.
Well, that's
Season
all of us.
3. Season 3, we open up with the Tribune, the panel, the Tribunal. And the Tribune, his name is Publius Decius, and he's trying to prosecute Opmius. Opmius being the guy who killed Gaius Gracchus last season. So we see the guy that was just killed him last season on trial in the first episode of this season for killing him. And they hear he's in trial for violating a law passed by Gaius that all Roman citizens should have a chance to appeal before the people before being executed. And so we're going to have an intense debate going back and forth. And then we're going to cut to the Senate hearing a pleading from a guy named Adderhall. Adderhall is the half-brother of Jugurtha. And if you remember from last season, Jugurtha is a prince from Numidia, which is in northern Africa. And he started a war with his brothers for their land, and Rome ended up giving most of it to Jugurtha.
Yeah, but
And
he wasn't content because he wanted all of it. He didn't want most of it. Yeah, he's
so
greedy.
he attacked again, right?
Oh,
And so the Senate is like, wow, like, so this Jugurtha guy, like, if you remember last season, Jugurtha came in, bribed a bunch of the senators, got his way, and now he's just completely ignoring his bribe decision and fighting, and the Senate is a little shaken by this.
Yeah, not happy. I have to imagine that the way that this is like when somebody explains Game of Thrones to someone who's never heard of Game of Thrones before, it's a bit like this. It's like, oh my god, there's so many names. But I know all these people. They're old friends of mine.
I hope so, because we've done 3 seasons of the show now, and most of these names have been repeated.
Exactly. Jugurtha and I are tight.
Yeah.
We love each other.
Yeah, you and Jugurtha. It's a cool ass name, man. I might steal that for another show. Jugurtha.
I might steal that for my firstborn son. Or daughter.
It's a cool name. A lot of cool names. Marius is a cool name.
Mm-hmm. Adderhall. It's like Adderall.
Adderball, actually, is his name.
Adderwall is his name?
Adderball.
Adderball, okay.
Anyway, his brother, so his brothers, try to seize half of the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Some senators are arguing on behalf of Jugurtha, and then there's an ambassador from Jugurtha who's there to argue their case.
Mm-hmm.
So this is clearly going to be a little bit of a long debate. And after Adderball finishes, they take a recess. And we see Gaius Marius come into the Senate, and he goes to Metelli and Scarsus, who, if you remember from last season, are kind of like the heads of the Senate. Mm-hmm. Metelli is like the leader of the biggest client network and sort of family. Client network being like people connected to him through his like business.
Yeah.
And he has a large political family that stretches throughout the system. And Scarsus is like sort of the backroom dealer. He's part of that political family, like he married into it, and he's like a man of, great intrigue. He knows how to set up crazy deals. He isn't a good public speaker, but he can.
He's the Ted Cruz of ancient Rome.
I don't know enough about Ted Cruz to
He's
say
not.
Yes or no to that.
He's not the Ted Cruz.
Probably
Ted
not.
Cruz is bad.
Scarsus is like the Otto von Bismarck, or like I can't think of a contemporary example.
I find it so funny that you're like, I don't know any contemporary politicians, but Otto von Bismarck.
I can't think of anyone that fits Scarsus. No one's like if anyone's a backroom dealer in real politics in America, I probably wouldn't know that they are, because it's probably a secret sort of thing, It's kept under wraps.
It's that one guy who looks like a turtle. You can't remember his name. You know the one. Everyone knows the guy. He fell down.
Like any sort of movie where there's a villain and there's a villain behind them who's really in charge. That's Scarsus.
The Grand Vizier. Yeah.
He's not a bad guy. Well, I mean, it depends how you see things, I guess. So anyway, Gaius Marius goes to them because he's part of the Metelli client network, still barely. He's like at the very bottom. And he has to be put up for consul. Consul being the top role of the president, essentially, for this war. Because Gaius Marius, he's looking at the other candidates, and he has the most military experience. He's been on 2 big campaigns, won both, has gotten a lot of great experience from the last really famous consul, Scipio Aemilianus.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks, this is my time, I might not be good at the political stuff in Rome, but I can go to war, and I can win the war.
I can kill some motherfuckers. That's what I'm about.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of a badass, but he's kind of like... he's not like a, cool talking badass. He's like, I can get things done if you send me there.
He could do a flip, probably. He could do one flip.
Maybe. He's probably a big guy, though.
He could probably slit a guy's throat with a playing card,
probably
I bet.
220, 250, He's
Damn.
Probably a meaty guy. I don't know.
They made it big back
much.
in the day.
If we're doing it in the show, probably in real life, he's probably not that big. But he's like a big, meaty soldier. This is Rome. They're fighting with swords and crap. They got to push people. They don't have a gun.
Yeah.
You got to be strong and tough.
So you don't need to be tough to have a gun. That's what Jake Gloth is saying.
Man, you don't really, you know.
And
you don't
you're
have
right.
to be. You don't have to be really muscular and strong. All right. Well, let's go back to the show. Now, they declined to support him and are distracted by the case in the tribunal, which is, the Optimius is getting prosecuted for killing Gaius Gracchus.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking. They're like, maybe we need to send young Crassus to defend him. Crassus being Marcus Linnæus Crassus, who is, I mentioned last season. He's younger in this. He's not the Crassus you're thinking of when you're thinking of Roman history. This guy is like probably the most famous orator in all of Roman history. Greatest public speaker of all time.
I believe the reason I started calling you the orator of the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Called the best by Cicero in his book The Orator. If you wanna, I don't know, read that for some reason, I guess.
Yeah. Just Google it. Just read the Wikipedia. It's fine.
But anyway, then Marius goes to Scipio Aemilianus, who's older now. He's kind of just hanging out in the Senate. Like, he's got political power, but doesn't really use it. He's just sort of riding out his term, you know?
Yeah.
Offering advice when people ask for it. He's not being an active participator. And so he goes to his old mentor and he asks for advice. And Scipio Aemilianus is about to give him something that you feel like is really going to help Marius. Whether it's going to be to help him get this role or find some sort of peace, not with the role. It's not really clear, but he catches sight of Scipio Aemilianus catches sight of the Jugarthan ambassador handing out a bribe to another senator.
So many bribes.
And so he's a little disgusted by that, because if you remember, Scipio Aemilianus years ago in season 1 had met Jugurtha and told him about this bribing thing and how it was only going to lead to his ruin.
Yeah, I do remember that. On a dock, I believe.
Yeah, because they were leaving back to go to Rome. He was like, "You can't do that, man. It's bad." That was the exact dialogue.
We really have come far. We've come a long way. Hey, man, cut it out.
Cut it out, dude. That's the way they talked in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
So back in the tribunal, Optimius seems like he's going to lose the trial, right? Mm-hmm. But then Marcus Linnæus Crassus comes in, and he gives this eloquent speech, and ultimately defends him on the grounds that the Senate gave him a senatus consultum ultimum, which essentially means like an ultimate, like it's like an executive order, but more than that, like it means you can do anything you have to do to protect the Senate, to protect the Republic.
Damn, it sounded like you cast a spell. Goddamn.
Yeah, senatus consultum ultimum. Anyway, that's
great.
Latin, I guess. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
It's probably Latin. It's definitely Latin. You probably pronounced it properly. And
probably not.
Good thing about Latin, nobody knows if you did or not. Yeah, they say they know, but I'm not.
Fun fact, did you know?
Confident.
Here we go. Here's a random fun fact in the middle here. Caesar isn't pronounced Caesar. It's pronounced Kaiser, like German Kaiser.
Yeah, like the sandwich.
Yeah. So when you say it should be, I think it's like Julius Kaiser.
Mm-hmm. It should be a Kaiser salad.
Julius
yeah.
Kaiser. Anyway,
I've
back in
played
the Senate.
Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, yes, you did. Back in the Senate. So Linnæus Crassus, by the way, his speech goes well, and it seems like it's going to work out. Optimius is going to get off. So back in the Senate, the ambassador from Jugurtha seems happy. Like the Senate seems to be voting like with him, and they're going to like give more of the other guy's land to Jugurtha.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Scipio Aemilianus stands up and proclaims that Rome is not a city for sale.
Damn.
Like, you can't just buy us out with your bribes.
Damn.
And it gives this big speech. We had 2 big speeches this episode. Crash's speech is probably going to be shorter because that's not as important.
Yeah.
But Scipio Aemilianus' speech, this is nice because this is sort of the twilight of his political career. Like, he sees something morally wrong, and he has to stand up and fight for it despite being so old. Like, he can't,
Yeah.
you know,
He's getting maybe somebody next to him is, like, helping him up because he's you know, feeble, but he's like, no, get away from me, I'll stand on my own, you know? Does that sort of a thing?
Yeah.
He's got his cane. I don't know if they had canes back in Roman times. They probably did. Or a big walking stick. He pulls himself up on it. He makes his beautiful speech.
He argues. Great speech. The Senate rejoices. They change their votes. They're not going to let this stand. Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Jugurtha is in Numidia, and he's cleaning up. Absolutely wrecking his brother. He's sieging the last city. And he breaks in, and he kills him on sight.
Damn.
Doesn't
Cold.
even no argument. Like, he bursts into the throne room. I imagine like a bloodied, armored Jugurtha kicks open the door to the throne room. His brother is like trembling. He's got maybe 2 guards with him. Jugurtha just doesn't even say a word. He just stabs the first guard, stabs the second guard, goes up to the brother who's like pleading, like, no, don't. I'll give you anything. And just kills him.
Yeah, just fucking cuts his head off. You know.
Jugurtha's cold-blooded, ambitious. He wants it all. You know.
Smash cut to him carrying the head outside. You know, we see his head. You know, close up on his face. We hear like a, you know, cutting sound. You know. Keep it on his face, and then we reveal that his head's been, you know, cut off, and Jugurtha's holding it over his troops, and, you know, everybody's cheering because he just cut the guy's head off. It's like, woo, I own Numidia. This is my shits right now.
We'll have a conversation when he gets out. Maybe, like, somebody's going to ask him why he killed his brother. Maybe one of his lieutenants or something. Because we want to be clear, Jugurtha is not just, like, merciless, ruthless. I mean, he is ruthless, but he's not, like, emotionless. Like, he's not just doing this because he's reckless and crazy. He's doing this because he's very calculated.
Yeah.
And he tells the lieutenant, like, you know, if I kill all my brothers, then I'm the only claimant to the throne, and Rome will have no choice but to just allow me to be in charge.
If I allow my brothers to live, they will, you know, raise an army against my son. And I will not allow my son to be put in danger while I still hold breath. You know, or something like that. Yeah.
Back in Rome, the consul election is being decided. Gaius Marius is disappointed as Quintus Celsius Metellus Numidicus is elected. What a fucking name right there.
Wow, that is a whole name.
Yeah, we're going to call him Quintus because that's
that's a lot easier, yeah.
Gaius was also up, you know, for election, and he didn't win. This Quintus dude won, so he's a little disappointed. He feels cheated as Quintus lacks experience. He's like barely been in half a campaign that like just sort of went okay. He's very annoyed, and he's got the title Numidicus, which is like for conquering Numidia, but like he didn't really do anything, so he hasn't even done anything yet. You know?
I was gonna say, didn't seem like he conquered jack shit. It seems like the other guy conquered Numidia.
Jugurtha's got Numidia.
Yeah.
So Gaius Marius is angry, he's upset, and now this show's gonna start seeming like our other shows, because guess where he goes when he's angry and upset?
He gets drunk.
He goes to the bar.
Yeah, he does.
And this is where he meets a young man who's one of my favorite of this story, named Sulla. Sulla is extremely cool, charismatic. He's like our characters in our other shows, but in real life, in Rome.
Okay.
He's cool, charismatic. Everyone likes Sulla. If you want to be Sulla's friend, just when you meet him. But he's broke as shit, has absolutely no money because he spends so much money hanging out with people and partying.
Yeah, reminds me of someone I know.
He comes from a big family, but he's kind of just wasted his political chances on instead getting drunk and having fun. He doesn't see like himself as above the lower classes. Like he goes out and he has fun with lower class people. You know?
Yeah.
He almost enjoys them more because they're not as serious about things. but he's also one for the lavish things. Like he likes nice
He likes
stuff.
being fed grapes by beautiful women or something,
Yeah.
Like they did back in the day. I don't know if they actually did that, but with the palm leaves and stuff. But he's very charismatic, but he's bad at everything else.
He's good at things. He's very smart, incredibly intelligent, but he's sort of wasted his life on just trying to live to have fun.
Enjoy life.
Not really wasting it, but he's just trying to enjoy life. But he's sort of at the end of enjoying life, and he's in this bar. Like he has absolutely no money left. He's got no sights, and he's sort of realizing in the bar that he needs to do something. And him and Marius, they have like this drunken conversation where Sulla's like, I've wasted my life. I need to, I have all these great family connections and stuff, but I've never made him anything of it. And Marius is like, all my connections suck. But I have money because when he fought in Spain, he got land from like fighting in the war, right? And so he got like some silver mines, and so he has a decent amount of money, Marius, but he's just has no political weight to get any jobs.
Yeah.
And so they're drunk, they're having a nice time, and they decide to make a pact.
Are they gonna
Sulla
switch
has
identities?
connections but no money. Marius has the money but no connections, and so they make the alliance. Sulla, with the help of Marius, with to pay money to help him, bribe people and get nice clothes and get an apartment and stuff. Sulla becomes elected quaestor, which is like the assistant to the consul for the war. So Quintus, he's elected the essentially assistant to Quintus.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds like a high-ish position.
Yeah, and then Sulla, now in Quintus's, inner circle, he convinces him to name Marius a lieutenant. He's like, oh, I know he ran against you. I know he sort of said some not so nice things, but Marius is a really experienced soldier. Lieutenant is not like a political role; it's just an army role too, so he won't get much out of it. But and Quintus is convinced by this and lets him in. What he doesn't realize is that this is another opportunity for Marius to show his martial prowess to the world, to show that he's, another
A great soldier.
He's a great soldier, possibly a great general. And the episode ends with them both on the ship to Numidia, clicking glasses, like, hell yeah, we fucking did it, man.
Big cheers, drinking mead. They didn't have mead. Drinking wine. They all had what? It was wine, the thing.
They definitely had wine, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Episode 3.
Ooh. We're moving fast. I like this. No, we're moving fast. It's good, Because I feel like...
I'm trying to. There's 10 episodes, so we're not moving that fast.
Oh, well.
Episode 3, Quintus and Marius and Sulla arrive in Numidia. I'll try to talk faster. They siege and take Jugurtha's capital. So they get there, and it's pretty easy. They take the capital, but he's not there. Where the hell is he? So Jugurtha, they find, has fled to the frontier with his loyal cavalry. So Numidia is it's very open. But there are mountains on the southern frontier, hills and stuff. So it's very, the land is very hostile and harsh, and it's hard for an opposing army to travel through it. And so Jugurtha thinks that if he can flee around, he can tire out the Roman army and then hit it, with a big attack. Marius suggests they systematically go through the villages to limit Jugurtha's recruiting base, right? So, because Jugurtha could just go through his towns and stuff and recruit more soldiers. Marius is like, we gotta stop that. But Quintus declines and says, no, we should defeat him in battle and get a quick victory and end this war. Marius is like, that's a bad idea, man.
Such a bad idea.
Episode 4. After long forced marches, they're still nowhere near Jugurtha. The Roman force is tired, and their faith in Quintus has been shaken. Sulla, meanwhile, has become friends with Quintus, which Marius doesn't quite like, but he reassures Marius that it's just a political move. He's just trying to, get inside it. Marius is still, bothered by it. He feels like he's being betrayed by his ally. And Marius, while they're doing these marches, keeps making suggestions that are continually ignored. And it seems like Quintus just keeps making all the bad moves. Like, we're getting nowhere closer to taking Jugurtha.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Sulla, Marius tells Sulla that he should be in charge, which Sulla at first laughs at. He's like, that's a good joke, Marius. And then he apologizes because Marius is very serious. So we get the feeling that Sulla does not see Marius as the consul material. He's trying to help him in this alliance.
Yeah.
It's mostly, so Sulla can get higher. He doesn't think Marius has the chops to cut it.
You ain't got the cheese cutting knife, my friend.
No, he doesn't.
No.
That's not. I don't know what that phrase was, but okay. In anger, Marius writes to Rome about his problems with Quintus, which is kind of strange. Like, you don't usually have a lieutenant complaining about the essential president to the Senate like this.
Are you you're telling teacher? Is that what's going on?
So he writes this letter to bitch to the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna complain, and he says that he would do better as consul. It's like, ooh.
That's some dangerous talk.
Yeah, he's like, I'm better than this guy. Put me in charge. Put me in coach. Meanwhile, in northern Italy, a general named Publius comes in contact with a tribe called the Cimbri. They're northern barbarians from Denmark, and they're numbering in the hundreds of thousands. They're looking for a new home. They're traveling.
That's a lot of people.
And they come up to Publius, and they're like, hey, can you tell us where there's some open land that we could go to? And he doesn't see hundreds of thousands. He only sees like 10,000 or so, and he's got like a force of 40,000 or like 25,000. And he's like, you go this way, and then you'll find a new place. And it's a trick.
Yeah.
He's doing this because, well, we'll get this through like conversations with his lieutenants and stuff. But Publius is like, this is my chance. They're fighting for glory. Maybe we'll have him as one of the candidates for consulship earlier. And he's like, they're fighting for glory in Numidia, and I need something. If I can defeat this force and tell Rome that they were attacking, I'll be a hero. I might get a triumph. I might become a consul. Like, this would be great. And so he tricks them into like a mountain pass and attacks them with his 20,000 men. But he doesn't realize that there are hundreds of thousands of Cimbri, and he is systematically and completely obliterated by the hordes of barbarians.
I was gonna say, you don't fuck with barbarians, man. Those are a group of people that are not cool to fuck with.
Back in Numidia, after another failed chase of Jugurtha, and word that Bacchus I of Mauritania, which is also in Africa, it's like a neighboring country, has married his daughter to Jugurtha and allied with him.
Oh my god, that's not good.
That's not good. Now he's got another kingdom. Rome is not doing great right now. We go back to the Senate. They get word of this. They're in turmoil. So not only are they bogged down in Africa with a war with Jugurtha in Numidia that is not going well. It seems like their force is losing. Now they've got another force. So their force in North Africa is going to get obliterated, it feels like. But now they've got this looming shadow above them in northern Italy of the hundreds of thousands of Cimbri.
Of these barbarians that don't like them because they tried to attack them. And the barbarians...
A massive Roman force is probably like 50,000 men, right? This force in the north is like 300,000. They're like, this is a huge problem. This is more men than we have. And they just lost like 25,000 up there, and they got 50,000 in Numidia, so that the manpower is not doing great.
Yeah.
And so they're nervous, and they get Marius's letter, and they write a reply. Marius has been recalled to Rome. Episode 5. In Rome.
Shit.
Marius argues before the Senate and promises to destroy Jugurtha within the year. They argue and he wins the consul election. First time a general has been replaced mid-campaign.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's not reasonable. That's not good.
And they also elect another consul, and send a large army north to prevent a Cimbri invasion. So Marius says he could do it with the men he has, and they're like, all right, we'll send everything else we got to fight the Cimbri in the north, right? We'll send this other consul. So Marius returns the army, replaces Quintus. Quintus is sent back to Rome in disgrace.
Oof.
Angry, pissed off, they just got screwed over.
How is the replacement going? Like, is he showing up, on a horse, and he's got like a whole bunch of men with him, and they're like, "Oh, how was your trip to Rome? Did you get your bottom powdered for you, you big baby?" And then he shows them the senatorial decree that he's been replaced, and then it's like maybe there's a scuffle. He's so angry, pulls him off his horse and starts hitting him, but he gets held back by all of the soldiers, the ones on his side, and because they don't like him either. They throw him in the pigsty or wherever they keep prisoners, just for an afternoon to let him cool down, and then they send him on his way with a group of soldiers who are there to escort him, right?
Yeah, maybe in the beginning scuffle, he's like, "Men, seize Marius. He's a traitor, blah blah blah," and the men just don't even move.
Yeah, they just stare at him
because they have more respect for Marius, who, if you remember, is he's like the soldiers.
Yeah, he's a
general. He's out there helping them dig camps and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And he's finally got the senatorial decree, so they have no reason to listen to their old boss.
Mm-hmm.
Quintus, no. You ain't shit, bro.
Yeah. Sulla, meanwhile, is surprised, and they have sort of a brisky reunion. Because Marius still sees Sulla as valuable to him, because Sulla is very talented, and he's a good leader of men, and he's very charismatic. But he's upset at him because he's just another person that doubted him,
Yeah. And now his connections have become far less valuable now that he has officially been, in charge, and he's, this is the first time anyone's ever been replaced, and he was the replacement, So he's he's got that big dick energy, he's running around, he's feeling good about himself.
And Marius has always been the kind of person that he doesn't really focus on the political game. He's more concerned about the war.
Yeah.
But he did write that letter. He's not entirely, I'm only care about the war. He's a little bit worried about himself and his ambition. He cares about progressing.
Mm-hmm.
So he concocts a plan with Sulla, and he sends Sulla to deal with Bacchus, because he knows Sulla. He's maybe not the greatest military person. He's good. He's not as good as Marius, but he knows Sulla is great with people. And so he sends Sulla to Bacchus the First, the guy that just made an alliance with Jugurtha.
Yeah, married his daughter to
try to bring him to their side, right? So he's gonna try to convince them.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's doing this, Marius prepares to catch Jugurtha. He's doing his original plan. He's taking out the recruiting bases, and he's trying to bottle Jugurtha in by the border with Mauritania.
There could be a really cool scene where they're we're getting close, and they pass this burned down village that maybe earlier in the season the Romans had passed through this village and pacified the locals and ensured to them that they would protect them and keep them safe from the vile barbarian Jugurtha. But they pass through this village again, and it's just been slaughtered, and there's people dismembered and dead in the streets, and maybe this old woman comes out and you said you would protect us, and it's just we're getting close, maybe he doesn't even see the dead village. It's just we're on the tail, that sort of a thing. Fires are still burning hot. Something epic
Episode
sounding.
6. Sulla, with his talent for speech, convinces Bacchus to support Rome. Despite having a marital alliance, he's like, hey, Bacchus, we can We can give you some of Jugurtha's land. You'll become a friend of Rome. This is really beneficial for you. Like,
you can always make a new daughter. Yeah. Some horrible shit like that, because, that's what it was like.
Daughter back, it'd be all right.
Yeah. Sure we will.
And so he convinces Bacchus to set up a meeting with Jugurtha. He's like, all right, here's the plan. You set up a meeting with Jugurtha, and then you capture him for Rome. And Bacchus, he agrees, but there's like an air of uncertainty about it. He's not sure. He's like, Bacchus is agreeing with him, but it's clear the man is shaken a little bit. Like, you're not positive that he's going to do what he says he's going to do. And there's some whisperings around Sulla, and he's like, I think it's possible that I might be putting myself in a trap here.
Yeah.
Because they're hearing about who Sulla is. Like, Bacchus is like, oh, you're one of the new general's like top lieutenants. I'm sure you would be a very worthy prize should you be captured or something. He's like, I don't know.
Probably not. I'm not that
unless
expensive.
You're gonna kill me, then yes, I'm a big prize and you should
keep me alive
back or something.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Marius has cut off Jugurtha's supply of manpower and forced him into a battle. It's a great fight,
Oh, so good.
Jugurtha's cavalry, Marius's disciplined but tired men. Marius wins the battle, of course.
Of course.
And Jugurtha, with his smaller force. But still a decent amount, enough that if he gets away forever, it's a problem. Like, Marius is pissed off because the battle didn't go exactly right. One of his lieutenants, didn't charge from the rear when they were supposed to, and they failed with, the pursuit after the battle. Mm-hmm. And they're forcing, Jugurtha gets away with too much of his force, and so now it's all hopes are with Sulla. He's like, hopefully Sulla's plan will work. And so, back with Sulla, he prepares to meet with Jugurtha, and he's nervous. He thinks he's going to be killed. Mm-hmm. Bacchus is there. Jugurtha rides in with 2 men to this outside meeting place right outside the city of Bacchus's city.
Mm-hmm.
Bacchus looks at Sulla. He looks at Jugurtha.
Yeah.
And he tells his man to grab Jugurtha.
Oh no, thank God. I was worried there for a second.
So, this is big. They finally got Jugurtha.
They got him.
Holy shit, Sulla's excited. He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. He hugs Bacchus. He's like, we got a party, we got to be excited.
We're going to get your daughter back, and then we're all going to get drunk, and I'm definitely not going to try and have sex with your daughter.
Yep. Now, this is the high point of the episode where, everything's great. This is the point. This is Game of Thrones, hard home when you think everyone's going to get away, and then fucking all the dead raise. This is this part of the episode because we cut from this great victory to in the north.
Just mud and
Rome's new army has come.
Yeah.
They're in the north, but we don't see the battle. We don't see anything. We just see the dead Romans all over the ground.
I was gonna say it's just mud and blood and flame, and they're all just fucking there, and they're beating their chests, and they've got their weapons, and they're picking the Roman bodies clean of anything they might find valuable. It's just such a fucking tone shift. I love it. It's great.
Mm-hmm. And so that means the second Roman army has been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're not on the edge of the Alps. Now they're in northern Italy.
Mm-hmm.
They are in Italy now. The barbarians are here, and they want the land. They're hungry.
Yeah, they're hungry. They're hungry for Rome's bounty.
They want Rome. Marching to Rome or whatever. I don't know. Episode 7. Gaius Marius returns to Rome in a triumph. Everyone's excited. They got Jugurtha. Sulla's with him. They're all they're parading through the streets. And they execute Jugurtha in front of everyone. A final thing saying this is killing him in this city. Jugurtha, we're going to have a lot of him in this because we want to focus on him because he's been here before. The last times he'd been here, he was lavishing gifts on people. He was, he thought that he could own this city. And here he was before it as a prisoner.
Yeah, and maybe we the parade goes through and they have Jugurtha right? He's like tied up, his mouth is bound, and he's just like being pulled along, by the neck, like an animal, like a dog, and he's getting like pelted with tomatoes and shit. They didn't have tomatoes, but you know what I meant. Yeah, he's getting pelted. They might have had tomatoes.
Actually, I don't think they did. I think that's a North American crop. Right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. And he's getting hit with tomatoes, or not tomatoes, like rotting fruit and vegetables, and he's like looking up, and maybe we do a match shot to the first time that he sees Rome in the first season, right? And he looks up in the first season, and he's got this like look of awe in his face, and he looks up at the Senate. He's just so impressed with all of the beautiful architecture. He looks up again in this season. It's just like the people screaming at him, booing at him, but it's the same angle of the Senate, and it's like way more ominous.
It should be a perfect parallel to when he first arrived in Rome and to now.
Yeah.
Like, the route they take, everything should be like almost exactly the same. Cheering crowds versus screaming crowds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
And he's executed in the streets.
It's classic.
And all Rome rejoices Marius.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. Except for Sulla and some of the higher-ups. We're crediting the victory to Sulla instead for being the one that actually captured Jugurtha.
Mm-hmm.
Despite being Marius's master plan, despite Marius fighting the battle, despite Marius being the consul, and traditionally, the consul, the person in charge, gets all the glory. All the glory goes to the person at the top.
Yeah.
But Sulla is somehow weaseling his way into some of it.
He's just got the riz.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the members of the Senate, like Metellus and Scarsus, they're giving the credit to Sulla instead. They're like they're not really rejoicing with Marius. A lot of this is because a lot of the higher up people, a lot of the Senate people, still don't like Marius that much.
Mm-hmm.
Despite all of his, good work, they still,
He's still a military man. He's still an angry dog they sent to fight. He's not.
It's because he's broken some rules, He didn't really do too well in political stuff. He wrote to Rome to get his boss replaced.
Yeah.
They don't see the good he's done. They see they see that and they think someone else could have done that. They don't see oh, he's exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
And so this gets to Marius. He's having a good time, but this is getting to him. And when he walks into the forum and Sulla is telling everyone about how great he is and how the victories really goes to him, Marius is enraged and he yells at him. And Sulla, who's obviously a more talented speaker, uses his words to sort of win the argument, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Or at least seemingly win the argument, before Marius punches him in the face. So we get what I really want to capture here is that Sulla might be better at speaking. He might be able to win the argument by speaking, but Marius wins because he can take you out.
Yeah.
Right? So he knocks Sulla out, and he says they're done. He doesn't knock him out because Sulla needs to say something next, but he knocks him down. But Sulla gets the last word because he says that they've already chosen someone to fight the Cimbri in the north, and it's him. Marius, just coming back to Rome, this huge, big general, and his lieutenant, his quaestor, gets the big next role. So that obviously bothers Marius a little bit.
Of course.
This enrages Marius.
But maybe neither of them really understand how desperate they are. How desperate of a battle it will be.
The way it is like they both see it as a chance for glory. Neither of them, you're right. Neither of them see how dangerous the Cimbri are.
Mm-hmm.
At least Sulla doesn't see. Marius sees. He knows. Marius is very calculated. In war, he's calculated. He understands battles. He knows, what he needs to do to win.
Yeah.
And he understands the Cimbri threat as something he could beat. But Sulla sees it as just a chance for glory. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not really concerned. He's like, yeah, they're barbarians. We can beat them. Marius is like, this is a tough fight. We can win. We have to do it a certain way. But Sulla gets the command. And Marius, enraged, he's being made fun of because he just punched Sulla out, but still lost the argument. This is supposed to be his big day, but it's going poorly. And he goes to Aemilianus, his aged mentor, and begs him to support him for a command against the Cimbri. Aemilianus, obviously being someone who's not really doing too much politically at this point, he doesn't really want to, but he sees this situation as dire, and he sees that Marius is the only one that might be able to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he supports him, and he's able to, with only Aemilianus' backing, he's able to get a command. But unfortunately, because he only has one person's backing, it's a small force that's only about half of Sulla's.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he marches northwest while Sulla and the rest go northeast to fight two 150,000 man Cimbri forces.
That's a lot
they
of
both
Cimbri.
have about, Sulla has, maybe 40,000 and Marius has 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, not doing too great on the numbers.
No. They gotta use some tactics, some science, weapons of war.
And at the end of this episode, as he's marching north, every time they stop to camp, Marius is training his men rigorously. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Words. This is the first time, this period in history is called, the Marius reforms of the Roman Empire. This is, first time they're separated into cohorts.
Mm-hmm.
It's under Marius' instruction. That's, a smaller fighting unit so that they can,
be more efficient.
They can be more efficient. They can, be moved around in smaller numbers so they can, do things like that.
So Marius...
This is the first time that they use an eagle as the standard.
Oh, that's fun.
Marius, he is an affinity with eagles since he saw one as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Rome gets the eagle from.
Maybe he has one. It flies down and it lands on his arm. That's
maybe
fun.
Throughout the show, I obviously haven't mentioned this until now. Maybe eagles are just a big thing for him. Before battles, he'll see eagles up ahead. His standard himself for his men has been an eagle.
Mm-hmm.
It's been something that he's always had, but no one else, everyone else has something else.
Yeah. Maybe, Marius is training his men and, separating them into cohorts whenever they camp, and it's, a big thing. And every time Sulla camps, it's just a big party, Because that's the kind of guy he is. He's let's uncork the wine, That sort of thing. And he's brought along, maybe he was able to convince the Senate to give him, a whore budget. And so he's just got, this, a gaggle of prostitutes that he just, has on hand with him,
I like that. I don't want it to be too crazy.
Yeah.
Because Sulla is a good general.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, though, because it sort of sets up, if he does have sort of those, lavish things, because it sets up him being sort of new and reckless as a general.
Yeah.
He doesn't really know what he's doing, but he kind of knows what he's doing. He's sort of just faking it till he makes it so that he can...
be glorious.
That's the kind of feeling I want from Sulla. He's charismatic. He's just sort of bullshitting his way through this to try to get some glory for himself.
Mm-hmm.
But through bullshitting it, he gets better at things.
Yeah. That's how we all do it.
Episode 8. Marius and his men camp on a hill by a river. And the episode opens with them in camp. They have the nice big wooden fortress. They have a very good spot on a hill. The river sort of encircles them a little bit. And on the other side of the river is 150,000 Cimbri.
Oh no.
It's this is intense. There's a lot of men out there. But Marius and his men are holding strong. They're in a good position. The Cimbri try to attack, but they fail. Marius' men, they've set up too many siege traps. They've set up too much. The walls are too tall. They're too strong. The men are too well trained.
They have bows and arrows at this point? Are they bow and arrowing it?
Yeah, they got bows and arrows.
Okay. I don't know the history of warfare. They're just bowing and arrowing people all day long. Maybe the Cimbri attack when the river is at its lowest, right? They wade across the river when it's really low. And so Marius understands that the river will come back, it will rise again, so he just has to hold off long enough for the river to rise again, and then all these, the Cimbri will be washed away by the strength of the river, and he's just it's a time thing. It's they're under siege, but there is a definite time in which it will end.
While that's happening,
yeah,
we have that river setting up, because that's good. I like that. So like while we can have that happen at the end of the episode. Meanwhile, Sulla's forces come into battle, and unfortunately I spelled the dude's name wrong that Sulla's with. I think it was like Silesius or something like that. Because Sulla's not alone. There's another general with him. They're like splitting the command essentially.
Yeah.
The other general is a little more experienced, but is not very good at his job. And so they get to a mountain pass, right? And Sulla is setting up defenses on the mountain pass. He's learned a lot from Marius about warfare. And he knows, like, this is a good defensible position. We can set up here. The Cimbri, they have higher numbers, but we'll be able to hold here. But Silesius, being prideful, thinks he's better and thinks his men are better than the barbarians, because they're just barbarians.
Yeah.
He forces Sulla to charge, and because he charges and Sulla can't leave him alone, so he charges as well, and they lose their defensive position in the mountain pass, and they end up getting like a crazy battle with the Cimbri, and thousands of Romans are slaughtered and they're forced to retreat. So they don't lose completely, right? So let's say they have 50,000 men, they lose like 10,000. The Cimbri barely lose any. Maybe like 15,000 they lose, and then they're running away, back like down southern Italy, like trying to get back to Rome essentially, or get back to Marius. And so thousands of Romans just died back with Marius. The Cimbri are annoyed, we have the big flood happen and a bunch of Cimbri are swept away, but there's still hundreds of thousands of them, like maybe like a couple hundred died in the flood or whatever.
Yeah. There's still plenty left. It's just like this is today.
And so the Cimbri are annoyed, but they start laughing at him, and they're like, you know what? If he's gonna sit on his hill and not fight us, we're just gonna walk around him and go to Rome. And so they do that. And Marius's men are like discontent. They're like, are we just gonna let them go? Are we gonna let them go to Rome? Marius, you must do something. And Marius just waits until the Cimbri are out of sight, and then he orders the men to pack up the camp and follow.
Dun dun dun.
Bum bum bum. He's got a plan. Like, what is it? Don't know.
What is it? We don't know.
It's episode 9.
Episode 9.
Again, episode 9. Marius catches the Cimbri force exactly where he planned to, on a river with a hill. His men are at the top of the hill, Cimbri on the other side of the river, and he forces the Cimbri into an attack. With amazing tactics and disciplined men, he slaughters them in a vastly outnumbering force.
Yeah.
This is true. Some of the stuff I'm saying is like, a little exaggerated, but this battle's exactly as it is. 150,000 to 32,000, and they were completely slaughtered.
Nice.
Marius lost a couple hundred men, maybe.
Jesus Christ, Marius.
Absolutely slaughtered.
Good at your job.
This is the crowning moment where the audience realizes, like, Marius is everything he says he is.
Yeah.
He is like the general. Arguably one of the best generals in Roman history.
Hannibal ain't got shit on this guy.
Well, Hannibal is pretty good. Scipio Africanus and Hannibal, probably up there with Marius, maybe higher. Anyway, Sulla hears news of Marius' victory and begrudgingly sends a letter for support. Marius replies, and they're to meet up. Episode 10, the final episode, the big battle. Because, Marius may have defeated the left, the northwestern Cimbri forces, but there's still like 200,000 Cimbri coming from the northeast, coming down come down through Italy. And so now they're like in not central Italy, but like northern central Italy, probably around like where Florence is. And so Marius and Sulla have met up. Catalyst is the other guy's name. I have in my notes here. I don't know why I spelled it wrong up earlier. It was like cacti or something. The
Cacti.
Must have got that. So Catalyst, Sulla, and Marius, they've met up. Catalyst is trying to like claim command, but Marius has just won a huge victory. He's like, I'm in charge. That's just the way it is. And Sulla's like, he's made friends with Catalyst and he wants to keep political ties, but he knows this victory is more important. He's like, no, Marius is in charge. And so, to sort of help Catalys's ego, Marius puts him in commanding the center. Sulla is commanding the right, and Marius is commanding the left. And Marius sends word to the Cimbri that, because they're up by this river passing, waiting for their men from the other side to come down. And Marius sends them word, like, there's no need to wait.
Yeah.
And he sends them ahead of, like, their other general. And he's like, oh shit. Like, this dude just killed our other 150,000
men
contingent.
With his 32,000 men.
Mm-hmm. And this provokes them to battle on Marius' terms in the morning with the sun facing them.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the sun in their eyes as they're charging. The Romans all wear, like, these bronze helmets that reflect the sun too.
Yeah.
It's a very dusty field as well. So as the charge happens, there's, like, dust kicking up. Essentially what this means is the 100 or 200,000 Cimbri can't see it all in this battle.
Mm-hmm.
We get this really messy battle, like tons of dust everywhere. It's hard to see. Marius charges through the left. Sulla is charging at the right. And Marius, we're going to be, at his view, Marius is seemingly lost in the dust, right? His men, like, around him seem like they're lost, but Marius keeps pressing on. He knows what he's doing. And he passes right, goes right past the flank of the Cimbri forces. And his men are like, well, we've completely missed them. He's like, no, we haven't. We're behind them. And they charge into the back of the Cimbri.
Oh, that's not good for the Cimbri.
No.
No.
And his experienced men cut down the lot easily and win the day. Like, they completely obliterate this force.
Nice.
200,000 men with their maybe 50,000 or 60,000 that they have. And Marius returns to Rome as victor and is elected to his 5th consulship. So during this, I forgot to mention, he's continually elected consul over and over again to continue keeping him in this war, right?
Yeah.
So he's elected to his 5th consulship. Now, this is unheard of. Scipio Aemilianus, the guy before him, right, that was elected to more than one consulship, like his old mentor, he was elected to 3.
Yeah.
And that was unheard of. That was ridiculous, because you're only supposed to have 1. Marius has had 5.
Damn.
And the 5th one that he's elected to is kind of like the victory lap that everyone gives him. You know, like the first 4 they needed because they needed him in the war in
Numidia.
Numidia, and then they needed him in the war with the Cimbri, and the Cimbri war takes a couple of years, so it's 3. That's 4 consulships altogether. And then the 5th one is his victory lap, as I said. Like, they're like, all right, you deserve this, you're great.
Yeah, you've won, you saved us.
Declared, oh yeah, they're like, yeah, he saved us. And he's declared the 3rd founder of Rome by the people.
God damn.
This is a huge honor. Like, he is, at this point, he's the most popular person in the world. He's the biggest figure in all of Roman history, besides, Romulus.
And Remus, my boy.
Well, Romulus is the founder. Remus is killed by his brother.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck about Remus.
Oh, it's my favorite one.
But even at the height of his popularity, as all of Rome cheers his name, Sulla and Catulus see the victory is theirs and are like they're going around and they're saying like, oh, we don't know where Marius was in that battle. He got lost in the dirt, in the dust. Like, they don't see that what he did. Sulla sees it. Catulus doesn't. Sulla knows that Marius saved the day.
Yeah, he knows he's lying.
Twisting the tale. And Catulus, he genuinely thinks that he won the battle.
Because Catulus is an idiot.
Yep. So he doesn't. But Marius himself, he doesn't care. He wasn't higher than anyone else. He's the most glorious man in Rome.
Nice.
End of show.
End of season.
There's more seasons.
Oh, of course there are.
The end of this season, it's all about Sulla and Marius hate each other now, but they're also 2 of the biggest people in Rome.
I like it. I was expecting Marius to die because that's how the last 2 sentences.
Marius's tale in Roman history is so awesome. There's so much more. Just gonna get. I mean, this is the height of awesomeness, but there's just like crazy stuff that happens next.
Yes, I'm excited to hear about it. Well, that was
Marius
good.
is not done yet.
I like Res Publica quite a bit. I'm a big fan of it.
It's fun. I like having like Marius is a side character for the first 2 seasons, and then he's the main character for the 3rd season. It's like Game of Thrones. You know?
Yeah, it's good. Main characters die, other characters take their place. I think it works very well, especially for Roman, history.
Because people die in history.
People die in history. People die fast in Roman history. Yeah, well, thank you, Jacob. That was very fun. Hopefully, our listeners enjoyed and learned something. Did you all learn something? I hope so. Thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, has been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and good podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. And remember, we will be here next week with a brand new televisual series for you to imagine. And it'll be fun, probably. Maybe.
No promises.
No promises here.
Give a hint for us, Charles. What are you doing next week?
My hint for next week is... No, not even a little bit.
There we go. That's your hint.
Yeah. New.
Brand spanking new.
I did have an idea last night. Now I know what I'm doing. It's going to be a horror show.
Horror. Space horror?
No, just regular classic horror.
Regular horror. Is it past horror or is it contemporary horror?
I was probably going to make it like an 80s horror situation.
Ooh, 80s horror.
It's going to be kind of a horror comedy situation.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Should be. Everyone should be. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.